6 months ago, a station owner near a Texas interstate spent $150,000 wiring up a bank of fast chargers. Last month's revenue report showed $412 total. Somewhere on that same highway, a competitor's single charger is pulling in 6 figures a year from the exact same technology, same equipment, same market, same electric future everyone keeps promising, and a 300x gap in outcome. That gap is what this video is actually about. An EV charging station isn't a gas station with a different nozzle. It's closer to a cross between a utility company, a real estate bet, and a software startup, all crammed into one box on the side of the road. The owner buys hardware, pays to connect it to the grid, leases or buys the land, and prays enough drivers show up regularly enough to make the math work. Unlike a 5-minute gas fill-up, EV charging can take 20 minutes to an hour, which completely changes how much money a single parking spot can generate in a day. But the real gamble in this business isn't the chargers themselves. It's what sits underneath them, and almost nobody checks it before they sign the lease. A single fast charging unit costs between $40,000 and $100,000 in hardware alone, before installation. If the site doesn't already have enough electrical capacity, running new power lines and upgrading the grid connection can cost anywhere from $50,000 to over $500,000, depending on how far the nearest substation happens to be. Owners have genuinely spent more digging a cable trench than they spent on the chargers sitting on top of it. It's one of the only businesses on Earth where the dirt can bankrupt you before you've sold a single kilowatt. That Texas station's $150,000 investment went almost entirely into hardware. Nobody on the team checked grid capacity first, and the utility quietly charged them a fortune to bring in enough power. 200 miles away, a station outside Austin picked a truck stop already wired for heavy industrial loads. Same chargers, same brand, half the installation cost. That single decision made before a single customer ever plugged in explains more of the profit gap than anything that happened afterward. Revenue comes mostly from drivers paying per kilowatt hour or per minute. Layered on top, subscription memberships offering discounted rates, retail partnerships with businesses that want charging customers wandering into their stores, government incentives paid per session in underserved areas, and in some markets, carbon credits sold to companies offsetting emissions. On a good site, that stack is the difference between break-even and real profit. Electricity itself isn't a fixed cost, it's a moving target. Owners often pay commercial rates that spike during peak hours through what utilities call demand charges, and these can quietly eat 40% or more of total revenue. Picture running a restaurant where flour triples in price every afternoon between 4 and 7, except you don't get to close early, because 4 to 7 is also when every commuter with a dying battery pulls in. Get the timing wrong, and your busiest hour becomes your least profitable one. Then there's maintenance, and this is where set it and forget it dies a quick death. Chargers sit outside in rain, heat, and freezing cold, get touched by thousands of strangers a month, and run on software that can freeze, glitch, or lose connection to payment networks often at the exact moment someone's card gets declined in the rain. Industry surveys have found roughly 1 in 5 public chargers broken or malfunctioning at any given time. Every dead charger is a silent revenue leak, and every driver who shows up to one is a customer who may never come back. EV owners talk to each other more than gas drivers ever did. Most owners don't manage one location, they run a portfolio, monitored remotely through dashboards that flag outages and adjust pricing in real time. It's part infrastructure, part software company, and that hybrid identity is exactly why so many first-time operators are underwater within a year. They budgeted like landlords and got outmaneuvered like tech founders. EV drivers behave nothing like gas drivers. A gas driver wants the cheapest, closest pump and leaves in 5 minutes. An EV driver, stuck waiting 20 to 40 minutes, picks a station based on an entirely different instinct. Is it well lit? Is there a bathroom? Does the app actually work? Will I feel safe standing here after dark? Charging isn't a transaction anymore. It's a wait. And the stations that win aren't necessarily the cheapest ones, they're the ones that figured out they're really in the business of making 30 minutes of boredom bearable. The risks here aren't the ones new owners expect. Charging standards have shifted multiple times in just a few years, and an owner who installs the wrong connector can watch expensive hardware go obsolete within 2 years. A site that looks perfect on a traffic map can fail anyway if drivers simply don't linger long enough to justify stopping. And car makers are now building their own charging networks, meaning today's independent operator may end up competing directly against the very companies whose cars they're trying to serve. Networks like EVgo and ChargePoint expanded aggressively over the last decade, betting on future demand, and both have weathered long, unprofitable stretches, waiting for usage to catch up with installed capacity. Smaller independent operators in less glamorous spots truck stops off interstates, hotel lots, shopping centers in EV-dense suburbs have often found healthier margins simply by picking locations with the right mix of dwell time and genuine need, not visibility. The single biggest mistake new owners make is building where they assume demand will be, instead of where demand already exists, chasing the thrill of getting in early, instead of pulling actual EV registration data and commute patterns for the block they're standing on. The second is treating electricity like a fixed line item instead of the volatile, time-sensitive cost it actually is. Both mistakes are invisible on the spreadsheet you show investors, and very visible on the one you're staring at 18 months later. A poorly chosen, undersubscribed site can bleed tens of thousands of dollars a year in software fees, maintenance, and idle equipment. A well-chosen site, long dwell time, thin competition. Carefully managed electricity costs can clear 6 figures in annual revenue once utilization climbs high enough. The distance between those two outcomes isn't luck. It's location intelligence and cost discipline. Full stop. So, go back to that $412 month on the Texas interstate. The technology wasn't the problem. The market wasn't the problem. The problem was a decision made before a single car ever pulled in the same decision the station outside Austin got right. 200 miles and 1 grid capacity check apart, and one of them is quietly printing 6 figures a year, while the other one is a $150,000 lesson in what happens when you treat a charging station like a gas station with better branding.